Hello and welcome to the Rational Live. Like that smooth transition there at the beginning. It's been a few weeks since I've been live. This feels weird. Am I even live? I don't know. I think I'm live. It just feels weird to be live. I haven't done this in a while. Been very busy. I'm actually incredibly exhausted right now, but I'm going to try to mask that as much as possible with a lot of stories today. So before I jump into it and give you a little preview of what's up today, let me first say hello. How you doing? And this right here is the rationalnational.com/join. That's the Patreon page. Help support the channel. You can also join on YouTube or send in super chats. Of course, that all helps. I'll be answering super chats throughout the stream, so send those in with your comments, questions, whatever you want. And I'll also get some random chats as well at the end of the video. I'll just pick some out of the chat. But there you go. All right, so in today's live stream, is that how I normally present this? Today's live stream. In today's live stream, we have Kirsten Cinema, a couple of Kirsten Cinema things. John Deere, an update on what's happening with the John Deere strike and how they have just shot themselves in the foot. Also, Anthony Fantano. My favorite story of the week involves music critic Anthony Fantano, the internet's busiest music nerd, so I'll get to that. And also a wrap-up of a number of stories I did not get to this week, and that's that. Also, I don't know. I was trying to prep the Joe Rogan. There's a Joe Rogan clip that I'm sure all of you have already seen, but I was so busy this week that I just saw it yesterday. Rogan praising Tucker Carlson. Then there's the other one about Sanjay Gupta being on the podcast. Anyways, I'm not going to cover that today, but maybe I'll just play it at the end if I got some time, and we'll talk about at least the Tucker Carlson one. But we'll see. We'll see how it all goes. All right. What am I feel like I'm forgetting something. This is all so new to me. I feel like I forgot something, but I guess I'll figure out when I'm doing it. There's already a chat in. Sweet. Let me grab that chat. This from Fully Insider says Boris Johnson set time turn his back on a deal with EU to protect the Good Friday Agreement in NI. Conservatives and lies name a more iconic duo. Well, I have no idea what this is about. I have not been reading up on the latest in the UK, but lies and conservatives, of course, yes, they go together like peanut butter and jam. All right, let me get to the first story, which is not really a story, but it's... Sorry, I just saw a chat. It distracted me. Michael Reagan says, David, my girlfriend loves you. Wow, thank you. I'm glad that she loves me. Okay, so let me get to this first story, which, again, is not a story, but I wanted to share this since I laughed a lot. This was shared on Twitter by Devin. So all credit to Devin here for putting this hilarious thread together. Kirsten Cinema as bathroom stalls. So let's go through these. Here is, should I zoom in a little bit? Here you go. So that outfit, this bathroom stall. Looks like it, yep, matches up well. Here's this outfit. This bathroom stall. Fantastic. Oh, look at this outfit. Is that even her? She looks different here. And this bathroom stall. Incredible. This one. Interesting. Wow. They even got the purple lettering. Look at that. That's impressive. This outfit. This bathroom stall. Look at that. This outfit. This bathroom stall. Okay, we're almost done. This is the best one, I think. This outfit. This bathroom stall. Oh, so ridiculous. Devin here says support and follow Primary Cinema Arizona. I will be very briefly in a second covering an actual Kirsten Cinema story. But yes, check out that Twitter page. I'm not following it, but maybe I should. But there you go. They're working to Primary Cinema, which of course I think may be very successful, but it's a few years away. She isn't up for re-election until 2024. So is this hatred going to continue? Is she going to keep being horrible? I think there's a good chance, as I'll discuss in the next segment, that she will just leave the Democratic Party. She'll either leave the Senate altogether and, get a cushy corporate job, or she will become an independent, or she'll join the GOP. I don't think she will stay a Democratic senator for the next 4 years, but we'll see about that. Okay, there you go. That's that segment. Now I'm going to prep the actual Kyrsten Sinema segment, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. That took a little longer than I thought. There is another chat from Austin Andrews here saying, "Love your work, sir. You're so well spoken and at the risk of redundancy, rational, but aren't afraid to show anger when the moment calls for it." Thank you, Austin. I feel like I should be angrier than usual since I'm extremely tired. Is the lighting a little dark on one side? I feel like it is. There we go. Better? Better? A little better. All right. All right, here we go. The real Kyrsten Sinema segment that that is an actual segment, unlike the last one. Just as Democratic Senator Kyrsten Sinema left for a week in Europe to fundraise from big donors, new polling out of Data for Progress shows just how unpopular Sinema is in Arizona and how voters there are eager to primary her. So there is a lot of data here, and of course, all of this reaction is in response to her opposition to the Build Back Better bill, the spending bill at the heart of all of this. So let's start with this first poll here from Data for Progress. Arizona Democratic primary voters approve of Biden and Mark Kelly, the other senator in Arizona, but disapprove of Sinema. So it is stark. Joe Biden is a plus 71, Mark Kelly a plus 75, Sinema a minus 45. So this you can't paint it any more clear than this. It is obvious that Arizona loves Biden, loves Mark Kelly, but Sinema, clearly they feel a little differently. Arizona Democratic Party voters across the board do not approve of Sinema's job performance. So you can go down demographics here. All of them. Look at the net and the reactions here. So they're all net negatives. So of course, like the Democratic primary voters, net negative 45. Democrats minus 55. Independent minus 21. Female minus 39. Male minus 50. Under 45 minus 43. Plus 45 minus 45. Education, no college, minus 37. College, minus 54. Hispanic or Latino, minus 46. Whites, minus 44. So, yeah. It's pretty clear they do not like Sinema. Now, putting her up against potential matchups in a primary. Now, Sinema isn't up for re-election until 2024, so this is still a ways off if it were to happen. If she still is a Democratic senator at that point and doesn't leave or flip parties or become an independent. Here you have her up against potential challengers, people that are more well-known in Arizona. So Rubin Gallego, Kate Gallego, Greg Stanton, Regina Romero, all of them beating Sinema in head-to-head matchups. So I don't know if there is a primary challenge. It appears Sinema, at least at this point, wouldn't do too well. Now, of course, maybe she'll change her entire mind on the spending package and agree to everything, but I somehow doubt that's going to happen. So if this negative feeling towards her continues and she keeps on being or keeps on basically screwing Biden and the Democratic Party and passing anything, then obviously I think this hatred will continue. Last poll here from Native Progress showing Arizona Democratic primary voters are much more likely to vote for a candidate who supports provisions in the Build Back Better Act. So support for the spending bill is, clearly very positive. You look here at everything in it, massive net positives here. So lowering prescription drug costs, plus 92, closing tax loopholes, plus 88, increasing taxes on the wealthy and large corporations, plus 81, expanding Medicare benefits, plus 82, incentivizing clean energy use, plus 80, cutting taxes on low-income individuals, plus 78, increasing funding for long-term care, plus 76, comprehensive paid and family medical leave, plus 76, lower the cost of childcare, plus 74, funding universal pre-K, plus 72, and cutting taxes for families with children, plus 66. Very popular all across the board, showing you that Sinema, of course, I've done enough videos now. It's obvious she doesn't care at all about what her constituents want. It's all about what her donors want. And ultimately, it's not really clear what she wants. It's not clear if she wants out of the Senate for a cushy corporate job, in the next couple of years, or if she wants to maybe try and appeal to Republican voters, but no Republican's ever going to vote for a Democrat over an actual Republican. So there's no point in doing that unless you plan to switch parties or become an independent and hope that that conservative push will help you enough to defeat both parties. But I don't know. I tend to lean towards thinking that she actually just wants to leave the Senate, because why would you be doing something like this and cozying up this much and this blatantly to corporations, meeting with them in Europe, meeting with them in Arizona? It's well documented, well reported. Why would you be doing this during this fight? Other corporate Democrats are a little better at hiding it. You can pick out pretty much any other Democrat in the party, especially in the Senate, and they do similar things in terms of listening to their donors and often voting for what they want. But Sinema is doing such a blatant way that she must have some kind of plan here. Otherwise, why would she be doing it in the way that she's doing it? Unless she just is that clueless, but I doubt that. Now, Sawyer Hackett here tweeting out the fact that Sinema hasn't held a single public event in the 2 years since taking office hasn't received enough attention. This is pretty crazy. And I've mentioned this before in another video on Sinema, where she just, not only is she ignoring her constituents right now and people that are trying to talk to her, trying to, meet with her. That's why you're seeing these sorts of protests where they're following her into the bathroom, for example, that blew up. But the reason they're doing that is because they can't talk to her. She isn't willing to meet with anybody. And it hasn't just been recently, it's been in the past 2 years. So she has not had any public events talking to actual voters for the past 2 years. So this is what she has turned into since joining the Senate. Now, also, just to go off of that point, she is apparently ghosting a lot of people that supported her and helped her get to where she is today. So this article in Daily Beast breaks down a lot of that. I'll just quote a couple of pieces here. So they write here, it is not unusual for allies to have a falling out amid perceived slights and political differences. But Hurston, one of the followers who have been essentially ghosted by her, says, quote, when I talk to other individuals that consider themselves friends of hers, they told me they haven't spoken to her in over a year. And when they've contacted her to inquire why she's doing what she's doing politically, they don't get callbacks, he said. She's clearly gone in a different direction. That claim was corroborated by 5 other sources. In total, more than a dozen people spoke to the Daily Beast about Sinema's political orbit, some of whom requested anonymity because they were not authorized to candidly speak about the dynamics at play or feared professional repercussions for doing so. A spokesperson for Sinema declined to comment after being sent a list of questions for this story. So not only is she ignoring people, her entire office is unwilling to engage with anybody. Last bit here, one DC lobbyist told the Daily Beast that on K Street, Sinema is often thought of as something of an enigma, but the lobbyist added a qualifier. If you're a Republican downtown, they said, you think she's the greatest person ever. Showing you right now, she is purely just doing work for the GOP. Now, whether she is doing that in the attempt to try and position herself to flip parties or become an independent, or it's just for a corporate job, who knows what her actual goal here is. But it's obvious that her actual actions right now are simply helping the Republican Party. And in doing so, she's angering Democrats and voters in general in her state, including independents. So if she's up for re-election, if she actually tries to go for re-election in 2024, and this hatred, this anger is still there, this senator is, I think, clearly ripe for a primary. All right, there is the Sinema story. Jesus Christ. It's just so much. So the next story is going to be on John Deere and an update to what I covered yesterday. First, if there's some super chats, I'll grab those. There is one here from Bang Radio saying, how can she raise funds out of the country? Isn't there a law against receiving money from foreigners? So I haven't read that much into it. I just heard she went to Europe. I agree with you. That's what I was wondering as well. But I just didn't have time to read more into that, so I didn't actually dive deeper into that. But my assumption is it's from corporations. And, maybe they're on a trip somewhere and it's not necessarily from European corporations, but it's from American corporations that are vacationing in Europe is my guess. And she's out there fundraising. Okay. I will be right back. All right, here is the John Deere story, and this is an update to what I covered yesterday. John Deere's attempt to replace 10,000 unionized workers who are currently on strike has already turned into a mess less than 48 hours into it. So 10,000 unionized workers at John Deere are currently striking for higher wages and better conditions. This is after their CEO increased his own pay during the pandemic by 160%. So as you increase your own pay as the CEO by 160%, you can't then not expect to increase the workers' pay that are the ones that are directly giving you the profits that your company are making, which, by the way, John Deere is on course to make $6 billion in profits this year. Well, John Deere's brilliant scheme to temporarily replace these unionized workers is to put salaried office workers into those unionized positions, with these salaried workers dealing with heavy machinery that they aren't used to working with. So how do you think that's going? Well, here's how that's going. Day one. This from Jonah Furman, who's done an incredible job covering this story. He works for labornotes.org. Tweets out here, day one, a non-union salaried worker just crashed a tractor inside the plant. Whoops. Yeah, so here's the incident here. He crashed into some kind of electrical grid or something, and they have to repaint the tractor and fix that. So already, day one, someone crashed a tractor. Also, on the first full day of John Deere using non-union workers to attempt to replace UAW members on the factory floor, didn't even make it till 8 a.m. without a 911 call. Now, apparently, this was for I think he says here, medical reason, not an accident for what it's worth. But we don't know what that medical reason is. Maybe you have these salary workers here just so stressed that they have to be in this position and, I don't know, getting sick because of it. But it's just, we're barely into this strike, and these John Deere's plan here is already falling apart. Also, Jonah Furman here tweeting out, here's a full report from one of the salaried workers forced to work on the inside at John Deere during the strike. And by the way, before I get to this, you may be wondering, why are these salaried workers, if they're in support, at least this one is in support of these strikers, why are they doing this? Apparently, their jobs are on the line. So there's this fear here that they essentially, one employee has all but said that, or he said that management has all but said that they would be fired if they didn't agree to fill these positions. So, I mean, one way to counteract that would be for these salary workers to maybe form a union and work against this plan to put them into these 12-hour shifts, which is what they're doing, by the way, 12-hour shifts on these factory floors. But he says here, the salaried worker says, the strike is a disaster for Deere, costing them time, money, engineering resources, and employee goodwill. And by the way, I read through this. I will link to this below the video so you can read through it as well. But it's a great just overview of what is going on. So they have these people basically just thrown into the position. They've had very little training in how to deal with this machinery on the floor and how to do all this stuff. And basically, he goes on to say here, they had some training when it comes to how to operate the equipment, but then no training at all in terms of how to pack it. So they've had what would take a unionized worker 2 hours, a job 2 hours to finish. It's taken them 8 hours to finish. And that clearly is going to have an impact on John Deere's bottom line. He also says here, Wall Street is getting scared about the John Deere strike. Bank of America analyst report headline yesterday, quote, Deere likely has limited appetite for extended strike. Evercore ISI, an industry analyst, downgraded Deere's stock price projection by almost 25%. If there is anything that will break this strike, it's probably going to be this. They're worried about how they the value of their company more than anything. So if they're seeing that drop considerably, then that, I think, would make John Deere get back to the negotiating table and give these workers what they deserve. Couple last tweets here. Jonah Furman says, long thread but important. John Deere workers have reached out to me frustrated about media repeating company talking points that workers make 60 to 70K a year. One who's been there over a decade showed me what they made in 2020, under 40,000. So let's talk about wages at John Deere. So here you go. A little idea of how much they're making. Meanwhile, again, the CEO increased his pay by 160% during the pandemic, and John Deere on track to make $6 billion in profit this year. Last one here. I just thought this was great. I saw this from Jay Ryan saying UPS drivers do not cross picket lines to make a delivery ever. We have the option to enter a non-delivery as strike. So you see here, various options for UPS drivers to list why they couldn't make a delivery. One of them is strike. Good to see. So it's I love seeing workers of other companies stand in solidarity with striking workers. So it's awesome to see UPS drivers doing this. And again, I hope these workers all the best. And based on how John Deere is looking right now, I think they're hopefully on track to get what they deserve. All right. There you go. My next story is my favorite story, just for me personally, about Anthony Fantano. You will see what it's about in a second here. But what was I going to do? Check the chat. Still Alive sends in a super chat saying, "Hi there, just found your channel recently. Was wondering if you watch Vosh or know him. You should have a chat with him sometime." Yeah, I have watched Vosh. I do enjoy him. He's really one of the only people on the left that does what he does in terms of the debates, and I think he does it very well. He's very well spoken. In fact, I watched a recent debate with him he was at some event with a neoliberal, debated that guy. And that was good. He's really good at he's really good on his feet, really good at communicating ideas, and I think he's solid. All right, let me prep the next story. I'll be right back. All right, this is fun. This next story is fun. Popular music critic Anthony Fantano dunked on conservative propagandist Dave Rubin for his take on where the music industry is going. Dave Rubin now doing music commentary. And then Fantano proceeded to embarrass every conservative that came at him. So this is so enjoyable. First, let's get to the least enjoyable aspect of this, which is the Dave Rubin clip. Here is Dave Rubin sharing his thoughts on art.
People need to see, and this goes to your question about what conservatives do. Conservatives need to start showing people, hey, you know, we're actually the fun people. We're the interesting people. We're the creative people. We're the open-minded people. They're all hysterical and angry and all of the things they purport us to be. but let's get out there and show people that's not who we are. We're actually having fun. And I mean, try to even think about it this way. Where do you think the next great music or art is going to come from? Do you think it's going to come from the Marxist left, where you can't have any individual expression? Or do you think it's going to come from this new thing on the right? I mean, the answer is pretty obvious.
All right, there you go. Dave Rubin getting into music and understanding where the industry is going. Just one problem. Dave Rubin doesn't know anything. And in fact, Anthony Fantano, who is incredibly knowledgeable on this subject, shared his thoughts on Twitter, responding to Rubin's clip saying, "Conservatives are not fun, creative, smart, empathetic, or interesting. That's why they don't make great art. Their art sucks ass." Period. The next great music, quoting Dave Rubin, will never come from the right ever. It hasn't so far, so why would it ever in the future? And he didn't stop there. So he followed it up by saying, here we go, saying the best music consistently comes from the next generation of creatives looking to take risks and shake up the status quo, aesthetically or socially. Conservatism by its very nature isn't up for being daring. Radical change is literally not in the philosophical equation. I think Fantano makes an excellent point here. But of course, conservatives lost their goddamn minds. And their response is, I mean, what I'm showing you here is just a tiny fraction of the reaction that Fantano got. But let me share some of the reactions here. So Benjamin here replying saying, Bach was a conservative. Fantano replying saying, Bach died in the 1700s, you dumbass. Whatever warped conception of conservatism you have today doesn't even apply to the aristocratic socio-political context he existed in. He lived under a monarchy and would have shit his trousers if you showed him an iPhone. Oh, God. Why is Fantano so goddamn talented and funny? All right. Next reply here. Sleeve says here, I'd agree that most popular, creative, and interesting art in any form comes from people who lean left. The entertainment industry has leaned left for decades. Though, so it makes sense why they'd be more represented in art. But great art isn't political. Anyone can make it. Fantano replies here saying music access has literally been democratized over the last 10 years. If there were great conservative musicians out there dropping undeniable bangers, they'd be getting impressive numbers. But they're not, because their music sucks ass, and nobody with a brain wants to hear that shit. Going on to say the biggest thing you've got is mainstream country about the USA and mega church style Christianity, and that shit sucks. Even the young, supposedly edgy right-wing memers getting angry at these tweets won't listen to that shit. There you go. Now look, I have a few more coming up here, but I grew up listening to 90s country. I'm going to out myself here. I quite enjoy 90s country. But most of what I listen to, at least in terms of like, I enjoyed Garth Brooks a lot growing up. Garth Brooks isn't, the most conservative guy. He's somewhere in the middle there. But as someone who is just a mainstream listener to music, I obviously can't give a real opinion on this. Doesn't mean that conservatives haven't put out music. Of course they have. But looking at it from a critic's point of view, which is what Fantano is doing here, I think he sees it as just boring, horrible shit. And I'm not going to question his knowledge on that. Now, Jack Kettner, here's another reply saying, like Fantano, you're moving the goalposts. Artists can have views that lean to the right and still be able to create incredible works of art. And he links here an article about Prince. Raunchy Prince was actually a conservative Christian who reportedly opposed gay marriage. And Fantano replies to that saying, stupid post. Whether or not Prince or you understood it, he was absolutely radical socially and culturally during his creative peak. He was literally targeted for being filthy by the PMRC, the socio-political attack dog for Christian conservatism in the 80s and 90s. If the Christian conservatives of those decades had their way, Prince's most classic albums would be edited to death or thrown out. Same with NWA, same with Kiss, same with any artist saying anything worth hearing. You have no historical context for this convo. Please shut up. I can just imagine what it's like being in a position where you know so much about a topic that no one else can even come close to you and trying to deal with these people that don't know anything about anything, but that's clearly what Fantano was dealing with. Now this is the best place to end here. Lauren Southern, who of course is a well-known conservative, Quote tweeting Anthony Fantano here saying Frank Sinatra donated $4 million to Ronald Reagan's campaign. Fantano replied saying, of course, Lauren, great replacement Southern's go-to jazz singer, is the definition of limited range and presentation over ability. Plus, he didn't even write his best stuff. He didn't care about the cultural context of jazz, which is why he gave that money to racist Ronnie. And then another reply here from Lauren Southern saying, I don't understand how someone can consider themselves an art critic while knowing nothing of art history. Most music through history, the best of which we still play today, only exists due to being a glorification of the status quo, i.e. literally every classical composer. Fantano here with a good reply just saying, you've made a living out of not understanding things, so I'm not surprised. Oh my goodness. I did not expect this week to see Fantano dunking on Dave Rubin and a whole lot of conservatives, but I gotta say, I'm glad it happened. It was highly entertaining. And Fantano is, forget industry, forget whatever, YouTube category you put people in. Fantano, I think, is one of the best on YouTube, doing obviously the best of what he's doing, but just in general. I mean, the man is, the content he puts out, be it on YouTube, be it on TikTok, be it on Twitch, the interviews he does, so talented, so knowledgeable, so brilliant, so entertaining. There is really, I can't think of like one celebrity that can match up to him. And this is just one example of how hilarious and talented and knowledgeable Anthony Fantano is. All right. That was maybe kissing too much ass, but I just think the man is like, he's just great at what he does. And if there's anybody that is as centered and in their groove as he is, then I haven't seen them, because no one is doing what he is doing the way he does it. All right. The next segment and last segment is the wrap up. Let me grab some chats here. Ryan Nowicki, or was I? Ryan Nowicki says, looming SCOTUS decisions will be bad, but they will trigger a wave of voters in following elections. When do you think they will pull that trigger? Pull which trigger? The wave of voters in following elections? I have to see what the upcoming, what the Supreme Court's going to be looking at, because I have not checked that. But, I mean, yeah, you got a shitty Supreme Court. This is one of the arguments about 2016 that we shouldn't have to revisit. But ultimately, this is always an issue. And it's something that will last for decades, now that you have this very conservative Supreme Court. All right. Clifford Johnson says, keep up the great content, David. Salute. Thank you, Clifford. Radzoso says, the conservatives called rock and roll the devil's music. That is right. They did. Elvis Presley and his swinging hips. All right. I will pause there. As I prep the next story, I will be right back. All right, here we go. The wrap up, the weekly wrap up. And then I'll grab all your chats. Maybe we'll check out a Rogan clip. I don't know. I was going to do a separate segment on that, but I'm not sure I'll have time. All right. It is time once again for the weekly wrap up. These are stories that I collect throughout the week that I did not get the time to do a full segment on, but I want to go through them as quickly as possible. Here you go. Let's start with David Sirota tweeting this out. This is on Gavin Newsom from the Wall Street Journal. California to ban sale of gas-powered leaf blowers and lawnmowers. Yet, interestingly, Gavin Newsom slammed for issuing 138 oil permits as California cleanup continues. Gavin Newsom, it's he gets correctly disparaged from the left, but also, I mean, he gets slammed from the right for being too left somehow, but is correctly slammed by the left for being too right. And this is a great example of that. Who the hell banning gas-powered leaf blowers? Okay, maybe that's like the 200th thing you should be doing. I think maybe start with the oil permits. I think that's maybe a little more important. But you see here how Gavin Newsom, a lot of it's about symbolism. Oh, look, I'm doing things for climate change. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, this is what he's actually doing. Next one here. This is a clip. Prince William slamming billionaires. What? Let's check it out.
Now I've got children as well, and speaking to other parents, you know, it's a bit of a cliche, but you do start to see the world differently. And I want the things that I've enjoyed, the outdoor life and the sort of nature and the environment. I want that to still be there for not just my children, but everyone else's children. And if we're not careful, we're robbing from our children's future, what we do now. And I think that's not fair. And so I'm trying to use my little bit of influence, my little bit of profile to highlight some incredible people doing amazing things and will genuinely help fix some of these problems. We are seeing a rise in climate anxiety. Young people now are growing up where their futures are basically being threatened the whole time. It's very unnerving and it's very anxiety making. We need some of the world's greatest brains and minds fixed on trying to repair this planet, not trying to find the next place to go and live.
I love it. It's the kindest way to slam billionaires as possible, but still, he's calling them out for focusing on the space race and not focusing enough on fixing the planet. I think it's great to see that. It's important to have people in positions of power like this call out their fellow people in power, and let's hope he does a little more of that, and maybe even a little more forcefully next time. Next story, Bernie Sanders wrote an op-ed for Fox News. This was incredible to see. Bernie Sanders, Biden's $3.5 trillion plan to help working families depends on Democratic unity. And in this article, he slams Republicans. So this is just wonderful. He says here, it is no great surprise that not a single Republican in Congress supports this bill. After all, this is the party that 4 years ago provided $2 trillion in tax breaks to primarily benefit the wealthy and large corporations, and came within one vote of throwing up to 32 million Americans off their health care. Seeing this in a Fox News piece is wonderful, but there you go. Next story, clip here from Case Study QB. Don Lemon giving his really ridiculous and surface level, boring, dumb analysis on the whole fight of the infrastructure and the budget bill. Check this out.
The reality is they're not all going to get everything that they want. Progressives, you're not going to get everything that you want. But if you allow this moment to pass and not get anything accomplished, then you're gone, then Joe Biden's gone, then the Democrats are gone, and then you won't have a chance. Same thing for conservative Democrats and the moderates. No one gets everything that they want. And they cannot let Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, two members of the president's own party, torpedo his agenda.
All right. It's the issue with this analysis. I mean, there's a lot, but the idea of getting something passed for the sake of getting something passed is just, it's so dumb. What you pass has to actually be felt by the people that you need to come out and vote for you. So if the bill is so watered down to the point where these programs are means tested, where barely anybody actually feels the impact of them, where you don't have some serious investment into, be it the climate crisis, be it into the ability for Medicare to negotiate down drug prices, people don't see their prescription drug prices lowered to the point where other countries are what they're paying in prescription drugs. Like, for example, in Canada, insulin is 1/10 the cost compared to the US because we negotiate our drug prices like every other country does. If Americans don't feel the actual impact of what is passed, then it doesn't mean anything. So passing, the infrastructure bill, say the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the corporate giveaway one, that's not going to be felt by most Americans. And in fact, in some ways, it may actually hurt them when it comes to potentially privatized roads. So just passing for the sake of passing is stupid. But also, the idea of putting this on mostly progressives, when you have the vast majority, I mean, he mentions there at the end, it's two people that are blocking this. So you have the vast majority of the Democratic caucus backing the spending bill. Then you have Manchin and Sinema, the ones trying to cut it down. These anchors need to stop framing the discussion as it's the progressives versus the moderates when they're not moderate, or it's not progressives versus anybody. It's the entire party versus Manchin and Sinema. That's what it is. And a few in the House, but they'll go and vote along with it once whatever, if Manchin's and Sinema are on board with it. So it's the idea that it's progressives versus anybody. It's stupid. But even still, they're not moderates. They're conservatives. Like, let's also be clear about that. And no mention at all about the impact of donations, of corporate power, and that influence on these discussions and on these politicians. Just void of any actual substance. It's amazing. This guy makes millions. And it's not just him, of course. It's the vast majority of these anchors on these networks. They make millions. And their analysis is so superficial, so surface level, that it's amazing to see that they are able to have these full careers just being yes men for their corporate overlords. All right. Couple last ones here, or actually last one here. Amazon and Google workers are joining together to protest. So this from Empower Change. Breaking, nearly 500 Amazon and Google workers just joined forces to demand both companies cut their contract to provide cloud services to Israel's apartheid government and military. So this is fantastic to see. Of course, you're seeing strikes for other reasons, for wages and better conditions in other companies going on this week, like John Deere. But this is for a different reason, to try and get their company, they're joining together to try and push their company to cut these contracts. And there's a lot more on that in this piece in The Guardian. We are Google and Amazon workers. We condemn Project Nimbus. So if you want to read more, you can check that out. But there you go. This was the weekly wrap-up. I almost called it Tweets of the Week because that's what it used to be called. And it's been 3 weeks since I shot something, so everything is mixed up in my head. All right, those are the main segments today. I might do this Rogan clip, but I'm not going to actually do it properly, so I may not even do it today. But let me first grab, actually, before I do anything. There we go. That still works. Me in the chat. All right, I'm going to grab super chats if they exist, and they do. Jessica McKenzie sends a super chat in saying, conservatives also love to blame hard rock and video games for school shootings and never, sorry, it's cutting off your thing here, and never discuss mental illness and what actually leads to school shootings. It's upsetting. I've noticed they've been doing that a lot less. Historically, yes, they did that a lot. I remember growing up, I was always a big gamer. And in fact, I wrote about games for a bit, and I worked in the game industry. And from I don't know, the 90s to maybe 2015, 2014, video games were always what was, when there was a shooting, school shooting or otherwise, they would blame video games. Oh, there's a new shooting. It's Call of Duty. It's Call of Duty. That's why. It's Mortal Kombat. That's what's going on. It was so stupid. But I've noticed they've stopped doing it. I'm not sure if it's because they realize that doesn't pull well if they want a younger audience or what their reasoning is. but they have definitely done that a lot less than they used to. But yeah, of course, it's always about scapegoating to something else as opposed to actually looking at the issue and how to solve it. Judy McGrath says not just music, but all the great comedians, George Carlin, Bill Hicks, Richard Pryor, etc., were either leftists or progressives in their era. All conservative comedians like Stephen Not Funny Crowder, which is sad. Is Crowder does he even count as a comedian? The man he's just a disaster. Like, I guess you could say he's a failed comedian, but no, I think you're exactly right. Yeah, Carlin, Bill Hicks, Richard Pryor, they all had in their comedy was an analysis of the existing systems and how it worked against people in the minority, or the majority, be it people that are poor and middle class. But yeah, absolutely. All right, there we go. Should I go on? What else is there? If I had a better version of this Rogan clip, I would do it. But the version I found is really, the audio sucks. So that's why I didn't do it today. But what else did I have here? Sanjay Gupta. I'm definitely not going to cover this in a separate video since I don't care enough. So let's just quickly watch this. This is Rogan drilling Sanjay Gupta, and Sanjay Gupta just falling apart in the process.
Horse dewormer's not a flattering thing. I get.
Hold up, I'm getting double audio here.
Horse dewormer's not a flattering thing. I get that.
It's a lie. It's a lie on a news network, and it's a lie that's a willing. That's a lie that they're conscious of.
So this is Rogan grilling Sanjay Gupta over CNN, saying that Rogan took horse dewormer, which he kind of did. I mean, it was prescribed to him. It's medicine that's normally used for horses. Yes, it can be prescribed to humans, but it doesn't do anything for COVID. It's a parasitic drug. But anyways, going on here.
This is not a mistake.
Yeah.
They're unfavorably framing it as veterinary medicine.
Well, the FDA put this thing out. You saw that. Did you see that thing that the FDA put out?
What did the FDA put out?
It was a tweet, and it was snarky. I admit it. They said, "You are not a horse. You are not a cow. Stop taking this stuff," or something like that.
Why would you say that when you're talking about a drug that's been given out to billions and billions of people, a drug that was responsible for one of the inventors of it winning the Nobel Prize in 2015?
But not for COVID. Like, that's like saying, hey, I took Tylenol. I got COVID, and my doctor said, take Tylenol, and your COVID will go away. It's the same thing. It's as stupid as that. Like, why isn't that being addressed here?
Yeah.
Yeah, a drug that has been shown to stop viral replication in vitro. You know that, right? Why would they lie and say that's horse dewormer? I can afford people medicine, motherfucker. This is ridiculous. It's just a lie.
I don't think anyone is.
But don't you think that a lie like that is...
What's amazing in all of this is Rogan doesn't have the foresight to understand his impact on anyone that's listening, especially the dummies that listen to his show. Like, he also took, what's it called, the monoclonal antibodies. That is likely what helped him. A very expensive treatment that most people can't afford. They can get a vaccine for free. They can't afford antibodies in most cases. So that's likely what helped him get through COVID. Yet, for some reason, ivermectin is the center of the conversation here. And it's absurd that he keeps referencing this as if it helped him when it's obvious the very expensive antibiotic treatment you got is likely what did it.
It's dangerous on a news network when you know that they know they're lying. You know that they know that I took medicine. Like, here it is. This is ivermectin.
You got
this
it with
right
you.
Here. Somebody gave it to me.
All right, hang on. The thing is, we're like going so fast. Like, I feel like I'm missing.
Do you think that's a problem, that your news network lies?
CNN lies all the time. How many videos have I done on CNN? The vast majority of them are about CNN lying or misconstruing something. This is on like the bottom of the list. Sure, you can claim he didn't technically take a horse dewormer. He was prescribed a human version of ivermectin. That doesn't mean it's going to help with COVID, as no study has shown that it does. And the one that they always point to, oh, actually, this one kind of does. They came out later and said, no, there's a mistake. There's a lot of issues with this study, and it doesn't actually show that. So that should be the center of this whole conversation. Have you ever seen Rogan grill, I don't know, Alex Jones as hard as this? Or anybody on the right? There's like that one time he debated Dave Rubin on building codes, and that's just because Rogan happened to know about building codes because his father was an architect. But like in every other case, when there's Shapiro on there or Crowder or whoever, he never grills any of them the way he grills Sanjay Gupta here. And it's obvious it's because this is about him personally. I mean, it's because CNN put out that information about him taking horse dewormer on their network, and that's why it's bothering him, because it personally impacted him. But he's not able to see the impact of the misinformation or just straight out lies put out there by others on the right that he has on his show. So it's just, there's no point watching the rest of this, because it's just him grilling Sanjay Gupta, and it's honestly a little sad to see how weak Sanjay Gupta is here, and unable to defend himself during this whole thing. All right, let me grab some chats, super chats, and I'll grab some regular normie chats. Here we go. I saw one earlier. I wanted to read out. Here we go. Brandon Hale says, "Hey David, what do you think about Dystopian Times being discontinued? I thought it was a good show." I didn't know it was discontinued. So that's the Humanist Reports live show, which I was a guest on. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. I didn't know he's ending it completely. Is he ending it completely? I thought it was like the end of season 1 or something. So if it's not coming back, that's sad, because everything about it, I mean, the presentation of it, the idea of it, I thought was great. Hopefully he brings it back, but I don't know. I imagine it's a lot of work. Like, it's a lot of work for me to get one guest to interview one person, let alone trying to manage the schedules of like 4 different people and get everyone on and do that every week. Especially if I believe it's really just Mike, and I think his husband work on his channel. If it's just them two doing everything, it's a lot of work to do. So that may be the reason he's discontinuing it, but I hope it isn't over. We'll see. By the way, if you want me to read a normie chat, it's easier to tag me, and then I'll more easily see it. Just tag do @TheRationalNational in the chat, and then type your chat, and then I'll see it. Kinthia says, "Have you seen Gaslit Nation's tweet thread about Merrick Garland's DOJ? I'd like to get your take on it sometime. I've had a bad feeling about MG for many months." I have not seen that thread. I have seen, though, criticism of Merrick Garland even on MSNBC, which, seeing any criticism of the Democratic Party, especially the Biden administration, on MSNBC is not something you often see. So, I mean, in terms of him not and it could be a Biden issue as well, and not just a Merrick Garland issue, but you have to prosecute these dipshits on the right. I mean, the amount of shit that Donald Trump is implicated in, and the people around him, and now they're some of them aren't even willing to what's the word I'm thinking of? Willing to comply with a subpoena and do what they should be doing. I mean, you have to, like, when conservatives have power, they go above and beyond what they legally should be doing, or at least in terms of changing the norms of what normally happens. But Democrats, they do less than what they should be doing. So it's just this, you can't keep going this direction and expect to hold power, because at some point the fascists take over and then they prosecute you and you're done. So you have to be able to nip that in the bud before it happens. And when you have the legal means to do so, you should be doing it. But again, I don't know if it's just a Merrick Garland issue, apart from it also being, I think, largely a Biden issue, because if Biden doesn't want to do that, then they're not going to do that. But I don't know. I'm not sure if that's what the thread was about, but Garland definitely has been disappointing, to say the least. Samo says, thoughts on conservatives defending NBA players Kyrie Irving not getting the vaccine when New York City has made it a mandate. I haven't read anything about this. So there's been a lot happening in my life apart from the show. So there's a lot of stuff I just haven't read. I've heard things about the vaccine in NBA players, but I don't know enough to really comment. I can mention, though, I did cover a story on an NHL player that didn't get the vaccine, and he got a heart condition, and now he may never play hockey again. So I covered that, I think, last week on the show, and I think he was the only NHL player for a Canadian team who didn't get the vaccine, and he was one of these vaccine skeptics. He's also a pro-Trumper based on previous tweets, and then it turned out he had COVID sometime over the summer, and now he has myocarditis, which you have a higher likelihood of getting if you get COVID-19 as opposed to the vaccine. People make this comment that, especially young men who get the vaccine, they have a higher chance of getting myocarditis. You have an even higher chance of getting it if you get COVID-19. So I think you should take the risk there and get the vaccine over getting COVID-19. But yeah. Tony D says, I thank David Dole for his show and the chat for being smart. Thank you, Tony. Thank you so much. Christian OLS says, what's your take on the future of the progressive parties in Canada, considering there was an offer between the Greens and the NDP to drop candidates in each other's districts? Was there that offer? I didn't hear anything about that. But the future of the parties, I think, look, I would hope that they would consolidate somehow. The Greens at this point are basically dead. Just get behind the NDP. At the same time, the NDP, of course, also have their issues, especially when it comes to leadership of the party. Still wanting to move in a more, capitalist-friendly direction. And I'm not really... This isn't even really about Jagmeet Singh. It's more about people around him and wanting to keep the party in that space. But the Green Party also is like that. So in terms of any, there is no real anti-capitalist or socialist party. I mean, we have the Communist Party in Canada, but in terms of a major party, we don't really have that. I don't know. The future largely depends on the electoral system. That's the biggest barrier to progress, is first past the post. So until you change the electoral system, which requires the party in power to change the system, and of course, why would the party in power want to do that if they won with that system? That's what the Liberals were up against in 2015 after promising electoral reform. They got a majority government and didn't do it because they won with that system. So that's always going to be a massive barrier. And Liberals are always going to prefer the Conservatives win to a NDP win, because if an NDP government forms, then that sort of unmasks the Liberal Party as just being a barrier to progress. So, the Libs and the Cons always play off each other, unfortunately. And this system allows them to do that. Tyler Cross says, Striketober. Damn right. There's a lot going on. Kellogg's, John Deere, the Hollywood workers. And I know there's definitely more than that. All right, what else here? Any questions about video games? I'm playing Metroid Dread right now. It is fantastic. Though I gotta say, I don't love being chased in those areas with the, what are they called, the Emmys. I don't love that aspect of the game, but whatever. I get through it. I beat it. Not the game, but I beat those areas, and it's still fun. It's a good game. Stony Baker MD says Rogan has taken a lot of kicks to the head. Yeah. I just think this is the issue. I mean, there's a lot of issues, but the biggest issue is he doesn't understand. I don't think he truly understands his impact. Like when you have a platform, when you have that kind of platform, you have to be conscious of the people you bring on and what you discuss and what you say. You can't just say, "Oh, what I'm just talking shit," whatever. That's great for you to say that. That doesn't mean anything though. That has the actual impact is the majority of what the content you put out is. When you have on like 3 leftists a year and claim that you have on both lefties and righties, it's so stupid. Like, and his best shows have been when he had on Bernie Sanders, when he had on Cornel West. Like those are his best shows. But rarely ever happens. And it's like Cornel West was on once, I think. Definitely just once. Bernie Sanders on once. Who else? I don't know. Like he'll bring on Kyle Kalinske occasionally, but it's not enough. It's like you can't be putting out so much dumb shit on a consistent basis and just expect people to be okay with it. Like you're going to get criticized. You're not going to be canceled because you can't be canceled. You're making hundreds of millions from Spotify, but you can't expect not to be criticized when you're putting out a lot of dumb content. And this is from a guy that used to watch the show religiously, and I'm not even joking. I watched probably every episode of the Joe Rogan Experience from 2013 to like 2015, because I would put it on while I was working out. It was like a ritual I had. So I watched like every show, and I watched him consistently just get worse over, especially when it hit like 2016, 2017. It's when there really was a switch that was flipped, and the kind of guests he was having on were just consistently horrible. Vander says, "Do you have Twitch?" I do, but I haven't gone on there since they took my partnership away for no reason. I'm still bitter about that, so I don't know if I'll ever actually play on there again. Maybe I'll. My idea is to start a second YouTube channel and kind of do my random stuff on there, but I haven't decided yet. Sleeping Dogs is a good game. Genshin Impact. Isn't that a free to play MMO, I think? I think I downloaded it, played like 5 minutes. I didn't want to get too deep into it. Do you play Apple Arcade, a membership that will give you yes, I do. I freaking love, what's the name of the game? Because I love Capybara Games. They were a Toronto developer. Let me get the name of this game. It's actually, this game's also out on, I know it's on Switch as well, because I bought it on Switch just because I like it that much. I look up Capybara and I'm looking at the Wikipedia page for capybaras. No, Capybara Games. Why isn't it popping up? Grindstone. There we go. Grindstone. Check out Grindstone on either Apple Arcade or on Switch. It may be on other platforms now too, I'm not sure, but it is so freaking good. I love those kind of games where like you make a move and it's sort of like turn-based in a way, but it's in that game you're not really taking turns. It's your own turn. But very, very, very fun game. Speaking of which, they need to make a sequel to Clash of Heroes. Clash of Heroes on DS was the shit. You never played Breath of the Wild on stream like you promised. Did I promise that? I beat it. At certain games, like especially if it's like deep single player games, I feel like I can't truly enjoy them if I'm streaming them. Because I feel like when I'm streaming, I have to also be talking to people, obviously, as I'm on a stream, and like entertaining in a way. But like a game like Zelda, I want to just sit in the, sit in my couch and just experience it. And same thing with actually Resident Evil, which I also promised to play on stream, and I played it once on stream. It's the same thing. Like I thought I would want to play it on stream more because it would get me to play a horror game because I normally don't like to play horror games. But the more I got into it, I think I'm like a few hours into that game. I'm enjoying it, and I feel like I would enjoy it less if I had to, I don't know, feel like I have to entertain while I'm playing it. So that's always what I'm up against. I'd rather play games that are more, laid back, like Rocket League or something on a stream, or like a shooter. Actually, when Halo comes out, I likely will be playing that on stream, because I am a big Halo guy. So playing that multiplayer on stream, I think, is something that I will likely do. Fanders, thank you for the... Did I say this already? Maybe I did. But thank you for the super chat. I'm scrolling up here in case there are some other questions and stuff. Alex says, I gave up on Jimmy Dore ever since he started spewing vax misinformation. I think for a lot of people, if it wasn't already apparent by that point what he was doing, I think once he got to the vaccine misinformation, it was pretty clear. As a guy who's vaccinated, by the way, he has the vaccine. But he sees what gets the right-wing clicks. And notice how there's a lot less content criticizing cops. Interesting. He did a lot of that back in the day. He's said many times how much he hates cops. Yet he won't cover the various, whether it's shootings or use of force videos and stories. He used to cover that stuff, but stopped doing it. Because if you go back and check the like to dislike ratio on those videos, at least the most recent ones, it's pretty obvious what his audience actually is now. And read those comments. Black Hawkins says, force the vote was a right-wing idea that would have given cover to corporate Democrats who would have obviously voted for it because they knew it had no chance of becoming law. He goes on to say, when the next primary came around, corporate Democrats would have bragged about how they voted for Medicare for all. It was a super bad and risky idea that would have backfired and set Medicare for all back. But you see what they're doing now with their power, which is a successful way to use their power, in withholding their support for the infrastructure bill to push the spending bill. And they're doing it in a way that is brilliant because you have here not just, like 8 people in Congress, but a massive chunk of the Democratic Party in the House withholding their support of the infrastructure bill because they understand that they need to pass something substantial, some actual social spending, like an investment into the climate crisis, Medicare, being able to negotiate drug prices, expanding Medicare to include dental, vision, hearing for seniors, among many other provisions, the child tax benefit that's extended in that as well, and many other provisions in that bill. They understand they need to pass something substantial that people actually feel in order for them to keep their seats next time. So you're even having moderates jump on board with the with this initiative because they know they need to pass something. But Manchin and Sinema right now trying to spoil it all. But you saw how surprised they were. Nancy Pelosi thought for sure they would get a vote on the floor for the infrastructure package, what was it, like 2 weeks ago? And didn't happen. So I think the power has clearly shifted now, where Pramila Jayapal's Progressive Caucus actually has some real power, and they're flexing it. And I'm glad they have done that. Now, the issue is always going to be, you still have these people that are essentially undercover Republicans like Manchin and Sinema that are always going to spoil everything. But I don't know. We got to see how that goes. Clifford Johnson says, do y'all think it's time for a third party in the U.S.? There are many third parties in the U.S. You just don't hear about them because the system isn't designed to allow for third parties. Andrew Yang is trying to address some of that with ranked choice voting, his push for ranked choice voting. And what's the other? There's another piece of that as well. But the issue with his push right now is that he is like, he's essentially pushing for a third corporate party. Like he's not swearing off corporate money, which is ridiculous. How can you criticize the duopoly, as he describes? How can you criticize that, but then not see the center of that problem is the corruption within politics? Like it's so weird for him to be pushing this initiative and just completely miss why Congress is so unpopular. And ultimately, it's because he's a capitalist. Like he's not going to directly address that for that reason. But that's why he's also the wrong person to be doing this. Watching the new Dune movie, David? I'll check it out. I haven't been following it too closely, but it looks like it might be good. I'm actually very excited about, I think there's a new trailer for the Batman coming out tomorrow. So I want to see that. And there's also several good shows coming up. There's the Dexter revival that I'm looking forward to. There's the 3rd season of Succession that starts sometime this month, I think. And some other shows. Have you played the new God of War? Yes, I did. I played the hell out of that game. Fantastic. And I'll play the sequel too. What is your favorite vegetable? Says Barian. My favorite vegetable. I don't know. I don't know if I have a favorite vegetable. Man, I need to see like a list of vegetables. Here, let me pull up a list of vegetables and see if I can pick out my favorite. My favorite vegetable. Favorite vegetable. So there's spinach, carrots, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, sweet potatoes, mushrooms, asparagus, beets. So far we're 0 for 8. Let's keep going. Bell pepper. Jalapeno peppers. There you go. That's my favorite. Maybe garlic. I guess garlic counts. Garlic's in everything. I'd say garlic or jalapeno peppers, probably my favorite vegetable. Yeah. That's my answer. M says, have you talked about Squid Game? I have not watched this Squid Game. I literally know nothing about this. I've just seen the memes. I don't know anything about this. Maybe I should watch it. I feel like I should probably watch it. But I just haven't had time this month. I've been super busy. Someone says jalapeno is a fruit? What? But it's a pepper. How can a pepper be a fruit? I don't know about that. Okay, people are saying I should watch Squid Game. I should. What are your thoughts on pineapple on pizza? I like pineapple on pizza. I have not had it for a long time, but when I used to eat meat, my favorite pizza was Hawaiian pizza, which is not actually Hawaiian. It was invented by a Canadian but it's called Hawaiian pizza. I always loved it. I like the mix of, sweet and salty. So that's why I always enjoyed pineapple on pizza. All peppers are fruits? Why am I just learning this now? I think you're making this up. I was just reading how a bell pepper is a vegetable. So I don't know. To be honest, I don't really care. So whatever the case. Tomato was on the... I have heard that tomatoes are fruit, yes, but it was on the list of vegetables, so I don't know. I was just looking at a list. I was reading off a list. All right. I think that's enough for today. Once we get to the vegetables, favorite vegetable, I think we've exhausted all topics at this point. All right, thank you all for showing up, and I will be around. Oh, I'm not next week. Actually, I can't be. Probably, or maybe I can. I don't know. I don't know about next Friday. If I can't do Friday, I will try to do Thursday. Avocado, a fruit, yes. I would choose avocado if it was a vegetable, but it's a fruit, so I can't pick avocado. But garlic, there. Garlic's my answer. Can everyone get behind garlic? But I'll see you then. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks for the super chats and all the fun. Weed is my favorite vegetable. There you go. All right. Goodbye.